Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 22 of All the Mods 3 Expert Mode. I've updated the pack to version 1.8 and there was one significant change, well, there were a couple major changes, but the most significant to me is that the Mad Lads, they nerfed my sprinklers. Come on, man! So sprinklers are now less than half as efficacious individually as they used to be. You can tell here they're still like not bad. The crops still grow reasonably quickly, but it's a lot slower than it used to be. They also use a lot more water. So this set here, there's not enough sprinklers to completely overwhelm my water production, but my sprinklers for leveling up crops actually don't produce water fast enough. Now that's actually a very easy problem to fix. You see here, instead of just using an aqueous accumulator, I can use a sink. And a sink produces plenty of water. The only limitation on the sink is how fast you can extract water from it, so I'm using a resident servo. I don't know exactly how fast it is, but it's fast enough. Cool. There's one problem fixed. But now, with the reduced sprinkler effectiveness, our farm here might not produce crops fast enough. Now, I actually know that that's not true. With our current power consumption, I am 100% sure this farm is fast enough. However, over time, eventually, our farm will have to grow, or rather, our energy consumption will have to grow. And in order for this to keep up, I'm going to need faster growth. Now, the perhaps somewhat intended way, as per the patch notes I used, was to encourage people to use those garden cloches. However, garden cloches are really expensive. And they take a lot of stuff like greenhouse glass, slates. I mean, this is a whole crafting recipe on its own. I don't want to deal with that. So instead, I will once again turn to my favorite mod, Astral Sorcery, to bail me out. I know. I promised you guys no more Astral Sorcery for a little bit, but the pack update changes that. All right. So what am I going to do? Well, we'll find out. Perhaps the obvious choice is to do the ritual that increases crop growth. This one? Yep. Gives regeneration and crop growth. However, this gives a little bit of growth to a lot of crops, which is kind of backwards from what I want, right? I only have a few crops. I want to give a lot of growth to them. So instead of doing this, I'm actually going to start by making the Prism Lens. I think this is another item, much like the regular lenses, where the quality of your crystal, where the quality of your crystal affects the stats of the output. So once again, I'll use a good crystal here. And we will then combine that with a lens, specifically the growth lens. It's a pretty decent crafting recipe, and shine light on that and use starlight shown through the growth lens to encourage plant growth. Another thing that was fixed in the update is that these celestial collector crystals now have icons. So hopefully they'll be doing a little bit less accidental disappearing. Alright, so the celestial collector crystal here is what actually, gathers the starlight for us. And it has to be at least 15 blocks away from any other ones. So is that 15 blocks? That has to be, right? I didn't count. I just kind of estimated. But from there, I want to shine its light into the prism lens. I'm going to test to see if this can go through solid blocks. I don't think so, but let's find out for sure. If I put this here, that's definitely occluded. Oh, I didn't know you could stick it to the sides of things like that. Linking tool. Well, maybe it can. And then we want the green lens, so you put the growth lens in there, and then you link U to each of the crops we want to accelerate. So for each crop you accelerate, the less, you have a same total amount of light, you can just split it more ways. So, yeah, by accelerating more crops, you get a smaller growth effect per each individual one. The light's not actually getting here, is it? Because it is blocked. Let's show what it looks like. All right, let's get rid of these. My pickaxe is now, an axe and hatchet, but it's causing me to accidentally break blocks all left, right, and center. There we go. Now we see light shining. It looks like it's still getting stuck on this block. Let's move it. Oh, I guess it doesn't count as an axe for this. All right, let's put you here. Now is all the light getting there? I don't need you anymore. I might have to move stuff around to get the light angle slightly better. By the magic of lenses, I'm directing light up and over so that it doesn't get blocked by anything. And now this is our final growth rate. It's quite fast. It's probably about as fast as it was with the pre-nerf sprinklers, but what this means is that now we can scale up our power consumption without worrying about running out of, dyes and whatnot to power it. Cool. I'm not going to bother with the canola here just because our canola consumption, like in these presses, is super slow. So this canola farm should be fine as is. That should be our pack update maintenance stuff taken care of. Let's move on to progression. So the first machine we need to make is the chemical dissolver. Can I just make one? Nope, I have to do some empowering. Just kidding, I don't. I have empowered blocks. I just have to convert them into individual pieces. All right. So I'm not exactly sure how this works, but I suspect if you give it something like cobblestone, it'll break it down into its respective bits pretty quickly at that. So that didn't get a lot. I actually thought, let's see, cobble. I thought it said there was a good chance to get stuff out of it. Oh, so for cobble, there's a 96% chance, almost 97% chance to get nothing, and you get, have a small chance to get some of these various things. Let's see, what else can we dissolve then? I'm not quite sure what we want to dissolve. You know what, let's just follow the quest line. I'm sure it'll give us ideas. A coin, I wonder, what are our arcade rewards this tier? Time in a bottle or infinity booster? All right, well, we'll choose between them when we get there. Anyways, next up, let's go this way. I want I want to start making Terra Steel. So this takes one of each rune, mana steel plates, plutonium dust. How do I make this? Chemical combiner? Maybe? What else can we do? Compressed tiny piles. So thermal centrifuging re-enriched uranium cells gets a little bit of it. How do I make this? It's probably an output from a nuclear reactor if I had to guess. These don't come from anything. Alright, so either these come from the nuclear reactor or we're supposed to make it in the chemical combiner. I think the chemical combiner looks like. Does the quest offer any advice? Not here. Nope. Alright, well, let's see about making the chemical combiner. In the process of crafting our chemical combiner, I have to make water runes, which I have to make blank slates for. However, it seems like our spawner isn't spawning anymore. I even set it to always on just to make sure it wasn't a redstone issue. I'm pretty sure our ritual here that's preventing mob spawns is actually, unfortunately, affecting our disturbed mob spawner. I was not expecting it to, but apparently that is the case. So now that I turn the ritual off, I think pretty soon this should start spawning again. Maybe it wasn't that. I mean, it still says blaze. I thought it usually renders the mob inside. Oh no, there it goes. I'm out of here. Don't shoot me, please. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just this, that the ritual is unfortunately preventing the disturbed mob spawner. It doesn't seem to affect the cursed earth. I took a look at that, and our mob farm over there is fine. So I guess we'll just stop running this ritual. I'll put the crystal in a chest in case I want to turn it back on later. But if I have to do stuff with blood magic, at least as long as I'm using disturbed spawners, I can't run the ritual, which is a shame. I'll just use mega torches instead. Oh, I just realized that these rune recipes, normally they output 2 runes. Now they only do 1. Womp womp. Not that it's like a big deal, but makes crafting runes slightly more difficult. Now, as we start doing things, like stuff like Terra Steel, we're going to need a lot more mana. So I suspect our current system of mana generation is only going to be able to keep up for a little while longer, and we're going to have to improve it. Normally, well, my typical go-to for the mid to late game mana is the Kekim. I never even figured out how to pronounce this. Kekimirus, but it does take pixie dust, which means we have to, and a bunch of munch dews. But anyways, this does mean that we have to get to, we have to complete the Alfheim portal before we can make them. So I'm not quite sure what we'll do for mana until we get to Alfheim portal. Maybe just scale up our Gormalaeus production or something. So while the purpose of the chemical dissolver is to take items and break them down into their elements, the chemical combiner does the opposite. It takes elements and turns them back into items. So I don't think I have anything quite on hand that I can do with it, but this is how I'm planning on making that plutonium. So let's take a look at plutonium. I want this form of it. So to get it, I have to dissolve plutonium, or how do I? I was expecting this Stabarus. Can I get liquid plutonium somehow? That doesn't do it. So how do I get plutonium then? Is it nuclear craft, IC2? Now this needs plutonium to make. Alright, 1 minute. I'm pretty sure I need to run a nuclear reactor to get my plutonium. So, we're back in tier 3 here, but it says the byproducts of this reactor include plutonium, which we'll need later, so it's recommended you set one up. Alright, let's build a nuclear reactor then. For this, I'm going to need advanced circuits. Ooh, fancy. This project is going to take a lot of empowered blocks, so let's just batch craft them now. I'm going to make a whole lot of empowered Palis and Redstonia. So empowered Lapis and Redstone blocks, and we'll go from there. So these take a fair amount of power each as well. Let's see, whoops. They take, each block is 8.4 million. But we'll see here, our cables are actually not quite providing enough to our display stands for them to operate at 100% speed. So by plugging in more sides of the display stand, we get to speed it up ever so slightly. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plug in as many sides of these display stands as needed to make them run at full speed. Which for now seems like it's 3. But I'll probably, wow, geez, sometimes my mouse just freaks out. I'll just plug in all the sides. It'll look super ugly, but so does everything else in my base. Hey look, one's done already. The power running at max speed actually draws a lot more power than our generator here can produce. We might actually be limited by how much our cables can output, but it's pretty clear that we have to upgrade our generator now. So at some point I'll add a few more turbines. Unfortunately, I don't think our thing here produces any manulin, like it doesn't produce cobalt or ardite. I can check. Yeah, it doesn't. So that means I still have to go mining to actually make manulin for the turbines. Oh well. While I wait for our empower, I may as well go to the nether and grab some cobalt and ardite. Thankfully, I don't have to bother with like the nether ores anymore, so that means no more exploding. Woohoo! Here's a chance for us to use our chemical system somewhat, I guess, holistically. Stupid mobs. I really should put up more mega torches. So these ores, if I dissolve them, according to this, I get 6, or is it 16 or is it 32? 32 of these cobalt, I guess, vials, I don't know what you call them, per ore. And then I can, like this, I can do that to turn them into ingots, or if I would rather have it in dust form, I can do that. For now, I think I want it in ingot form because I want to alloy it. Yeah, I don't actually know if this is any faster than like grinding and then processing it, grinding and then smelting, but just another way you can process it. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it's slower, so I'm going to stop. But yeah, just how we can use the chemical combiner to make resources. To speed up the empowering, I've now upgraded our energy production to 9.4 kR of a tick. It's still going to take it a little while to do these, but we're 26 of 32. And then I have to do the redstone, of course. But I think the redstone takes a lot less power per, right? 6 million. Well, a little bit less power. A little while later, all of our empowered jobs are done, so let's make these advanced circuits. This recipe looks strangely familiar. I feel like there's some other pack that uses a very similar electronic circuit recipe, but it can't quite figure out which one it is right now. Anyways, whatever I'm thinking of, it's definitely not done in the thermionic fabricator. Cool. So I put a transfer node in between there, as you see, and the results are being sucked into this chest. All right. So electronic circuits or advanced circuits are a good candidate, and including the basic circuits, but they're a good candidate for batch crafting because you'll use them. They're used in 250 million things. All right. So I need advanced machine blocks, and it's really just it. Bunch of copper. This is what? Steel, advanced alloy. All right, so carbon plates is mash up coal or charcoal? Nope, just coal. And how is advanced alloy made in this pack? What's a singularity compressor? I should try making one of these. It might just be the fast version of a compressor. Anyways, and this is steel, bronze, platinum. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Advanced machine frames are also a good batch crafting candidate because they're another thing that you will use. I'm making 16 right now. I doubt these 16 will last the episode. I mean, for one, the reactor itself takes you need 6 chambers around one center, and the center takes 3. So that's what, 9 of them. 9 of my 16 are right there. And I want to make an induction furnace and singularity compressor as well. Based on the way these recipes look, I'm like 90% sure they're just versions of the metal bender. Basically, they have like this speed value, and when they're sped up, they be lightning fast. So where are they? All right, let's try those first because that should only take a minute. Induction furnace. Don't be misled by the name. It is an electric furnace. I'm confident enough that this is what it's going to do, that I'm going to replace my electric furnace. I did figure out how to turn on lossless mode on this thing too. So you press Control for heat, press L bracket to toggle lossless mode. What you have to do is hold L bracket and left and right click to enable lossless mode. And now you can pick up your machine. Aha, and it didn't use one of my uses. All right, whatever. I'm not going to complain. Anyways, one induction furnace. I'll put it. That's. I was about to say that's not the way I wanted you to face. So yeah, you see now when I start smelting something in here, for one, it has 2 slots. You'll notice how slow it is. It's actually moving, I swear. But that's because the heat's only at 1%. If when the heat gets up, when it heats up, it runs extremely quickly. However, it does need a redstone signal to be applied in order for it to run, in order for it to maintain its heat. Otherwise, it'll only build heat while it's actually actively smelting items. So you'll want to apply a redstone signal to it if you can afford the maintenance cost. And where's my machine here? We can see, it'll. Well, I'm running other stuff right now, but if memory serves, its maintenance cost is 1 EU a tick. So it's not exactly like backbreaking. It apparently does not accept acceleration. Whatchamacallit? Overclockers. Is that the sound it's making too? Sounds like it's dying. It's not a very furnacey sound. Anyways, I'm going to try the same thing with the singularity compressor. And at a glance, it looks the exact same. There's a pressure value. Does this one accept overclockers? It does not. Oh, good. There goes that awful sound. I should also replace all these hoppers with something that moves items a little bit faster. But I'm now with 8 items getting here. I should start making those dense plates, but you see basically with 0 overclockers, it's and a low pressure, it's as fast as the normal compressor is. So when pressure gets up, it's much faster than a normal compressor until you can afford to run like, a dozen overclockers, at which point the normal machines take over. But I noticed if you hold shift over it too, it'll tell you the energy usage. That is, I think, the at this moment energy usage. So maybe it uses 16 EU a tick while it's heating up, and once it's heated up, it'll use less. I wonder, what does this say? No, that number then is probably its maximum EU energy usage, not its current energy usage, right? Because yeah, this machine is 100% off, and it says 8. Apparently, different machines have different drop chances. Is that really a is that really a feature that they needed to put time into? All right, whatever. Now, on to the main show. We need to make reactor chambers. So I mentioned earlier, we need 9 of these because 3 of them get turned into a nuclear reactor. I probably don't need these generators anymore. I'll recycle these as well. Hey, what's the chance if I pick them up? Oh, these are 89% chance. Right, of course. That's exactly what I would have picked if I was in game design. 89% is exactly right for a generator. Not 88, not 90. All right. So 1 nuclear reactor, 6 reactor chambers. Technically, the chambers are optional, but I like to have them. Now, because it lets you... Here, I'll just show you. I'm going to place this a little ways away in case it doesn't like being picked up. Although I'm pretty sure that's not the case. So if you just have your reactor, that's all the space you get. For each reactor chamber you put around it, you get a little bit more space. Cool. So with 6, you can build the Maxsize reactor. So what is this? This one's an 80. Can't be an 85. Nope. Must be an exact 80. 89 is ridiculous too. Anyways, I just love making fun of IC2. So the nuclear reactor, if you do things wrong with it, will blow up. And it's not quite like the Draconic Evolution reactor explosion, but it is a hefty explosion. I'm contemplating whether or not I want to build it in a whatchamacallit? Compact machine. There we go. Because that means if I blow it up, then it doesn't actually destroy my base. But I'm overconfident enough in my nuclear engineering skills that I think I'm just going to build it here and hope it doesn't go boom. We'll see if I come to regret that decision later. Anyways, I guess this wide open area here is about as good as it gets, right? So I'll put it here. So we built our nuclear reactor. Now what? Well, we have to provide it a couple things. First of all, and perhaps most obviously, fuel. So let's see. I want nuclear fuel from industrial craft. There's a lot of fuel types. Let's see. Uranium oxide, plutonium, mixed oxides, various thorium isotopes. But I'm going to go with the only one I've used before, let's be honest here, and use quad uranium uranium cells, and I'll be using them in the quad configuration. So I think this is as simple as, let's see, I can jam a refined uranium ingot in there. Oh, I do it by hand if you can have a machine do it for you, right? And I guess you can re-enrich them as well, but I would... Anyways, making the cells is easy, but how do I make this ingot? Oh, do I literally just refine... Can I just cook the ore? Immersive engineering uranium ore just cooks into it. Yeah, I'm used to having to make this uranium fuel item like this by like refining uranium. But if I can just cook... Wait a second. Oh, it's a uranium block. Okay. So if I get... I don't understand. Can I use industrial craft uranium ore too? No, it says only immersive engineering. But I can process industrial craft ore this. You know what? I'm not going to overthink it. Do I have immersive engineering uranium ore? It's definitely uranium ore. What mod's it from? Industrial craft. No, that's not it. What about this one? This is it. Aha! Can I process it into 2 by chance? I am greedy. So normally I'm used to you macerate it and then you wash it and then you can thermal centrifuge it. Oh, if you do it through a thermal centrifuge, your yield is much higher. And then you can craft it to do stuff like this. But I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to take this and process it directly. Did a little bit more digging just so I'm confident I'm not accidentally abusing an exploit here. But I think the main way of, or the going through the industrial craft processing of uranium is needed if you specifically need uranium-235, which is like the highly fissible form of uranium, because this is used to make the nuclear craft variant. Basically, you take this and I think you can either melt it or you can arc furnace it into the nuclear craft uranium. And I'm sure eventually we'll get into nuclear craft and have to go through those steps. All right, well, let's test something right now. Picking up uranium in industrial craft has historically been bad for your health. Yep, that hasn't changed. So you see I have that radiation debuff now. I suspect my Astral Sorcery perk has a chance to remove it, but I also don't want to be ticked until it does. So to get around that, we have to make, I think it's like a hazmat suit. Not the nuclear craft variant, but the industrial craft variant. This has a lot of armor on it. Anyways, there's boots, leggings, chest, and there's a helmet. I think the helmet's called a diving helmet for some reason. Apparently it isn't. It's here somewhere. But you need the full set to pick up the uranium and plutonium type stuff from industrial craft. Otherwise, you have to deal with this sound for a minute. So the helmet, or the helmet was called a scuba helmet, not a diving helmet. My bad. Anyways, if you put the pieces onto a armor stand, you can now very easily swap between the two. Apparently my jetpack turns on while it's on an armor stand. So I just have to turn the engine. What's my hotkey to turn the engine off? There. No, engine off, excavate shape. None. There we go. Alright. I don't really need the jetpack anymore now that I have flight anyways. But that's another reason I guess why creative flight from the ritual is nice to have, even if you do have the mantle of the stars. Sometimes you're gonna have to wear the stupid hazmat suit. But this lets you pick up refined uranium without killing yourself, which is a big deal. Alright, now I just have to make fuel cells and jam these into them. I've discovered that these don't stack. Whoops. I guess I'll use this chest as a temporary buffer. Thankfully, while it is radioactive, it does not cause like radioactive contamination or anything. Industrial craft devs, that was not my invitation as to you to implement that as a feature. Get another chest. Anyways, once I take these fuel rods and craft them into quad fuel rods, they should stack a little bit better. Now that our pressure has built up in our compressor, we can see it is lightning fast. In fact, it's faster than we can insert items. Oh well, I'll upgrade that conduit later. Take these dense copper plates, and we can now make the quad rods. So basically this just takes 4, like when you put it into the reactor, in practice it takes 4 rods and places them in the space of 1. There's different reactor designs that like use more or less fuel rods. It's I'd say there's no like one single best design, but I'm gonna use a design that I've used before in other packs. It produces 420 EU a tick using 7 quad rods. So the resources I have here are enough for like 1 fuel cycle. So I did turn my quantum quarry back on to get more uranium. All right, good enough for now then. I should make another buffer chest for this that isn't my excavator or my extractor's output chest, huh? I've caught a moment of respite here where none of my industrial craft machines are running. I just want to show you that I have 3 machines here, right, that are being passively powered to maintain their like resource. The induction furnace, the singularity compressor, and the metal bender. The 3 of them together draw 4 EU a tick just to maintain their heat level or whatever the equivalent is. So it's actually very worthwhile to run these machines and just power them. I think the metal bender, because for some reason it's the only one that accepts overclockers, takes a little bit more power. because it's overclocked. All right, cool. So now that we've made our fuel, we need the rest of the reactor, right? If we put fuel in every slot in this reactor, it will overheat and melt down and explode almost immediately. We need to put in little bits to regulate the heat. This reactor is looking like it's going to take a lot of copper. Basically, all of these components, and we're going to need a lot of these components, use, well, maybe not all, but a lot of them use dense copper plates. So let's swap our laser drill over from white to copper. And orange lenses here specifically will increase their yield of, those are useless, copper ore and really just copper ore, huh? The rest of these aren't particularly useful. Oh well, I need copper, so that's what we'll run for now. And, you know, all this stuff we get from white lenses, I'm sure we have plenty of. Well, I scrounged together every piece of copper I had to my name, and I came up a little short. All these heat vents here should be overclocked heat vents, but overclocked heat vents take 2 dense copper plates each. So I'm missing 19 by 2, 38 dense copper plates, and each plate is 8 copper ingots. So that's actually quite a bit of copper. I think what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to, first of all, I'm out of food. I am. I'm just going to go to the nether and mine up some copper. I'm completely out of liquid meat. Alright, whatever then. Now that I've thoroughly depleted my copper supply, here's all the components for our nuclear reactor. A full-size reactor has the same number of slots as a double chest, so I was just putting everything in here to make sure I didn't forget anything. So in addition to these 7 quad fuel rods, let's put on our suit on before I... it's just turning hover mode off. No, I have to turn the engine off entirely. Alright. Anyways... In addition to the 7 fuel rods, we have, I believe this is 7 reactor platings. The reactor platings do literally nothing besides take up space. So if you're not planning on doing automation of your nuclear reactor, you actually don't need those. And then there's a bunch of these heat components. I literally have no clue what their difference between them is. I looked up a build online and I will use it. I'll put a link to it in the description so that you can copy it should you choose. But there are 11 component heat exchangers, 11 component heat vents, a single component heat exchanger, and the rest are overclocked heat vents. I believe that's 28 total. Alright, so I'm going to put all these components into the reactor and turn it on. Well, before I turn it on, I'm going to show you the finalized build. But basically, I'm not going to make you sit through me trying to figure out where each of these components goes. I'm like 95% sure that this is the correct layout. But if it's wrong, it will blow up very shortly. So you turn it on. Well, first of all, make a backup if you can. You turn it on by applying a redstone signal to it. When it runs, you can see that components will take a little bit of damage. So they also self-heal over time. So let it run for a little bit, and if you see that, you know, some components will take damage, but basically as long as they don't hit 0, it's fine. Now the cells will take 1 point of damage per second. So a 10,000 durability cell will last, what, just under 3 hours, I think. That's good. We want these to be depleted because we actually care about their depleted products. Now, this reactor is also producing 420 EU a tick, and we're doing literally nothing with it. I could, like, you know, step it down through transformers and stuff to use it to generate power. Meh, I'll do that later. Right now, I'm just interested in the spent fuel products. So I'm going to let this run a couple minutes to make sure that none of my components burn out, but it's looking like I did things right, I think, I hope. It's been a couple of minutes and none of my components have melted down and my reactor hasn't exploded. All very good things. One thing I'm used to the reactor having a heat bar that tells you how, well, basically if it fills up, it's bad, but I don't see one here. So I don't know, whatever. I'm just going to assume that this reactor is safe. I'm like 90% sure that's true. And I mean, 90% is good enough in nuclear engineering, right? So the next step, the step that will most likely be the cause of any explosions, is automation. To do so, every slot in here is accessible via conduits, and you never, ever, ever want to extract any of the non-fuel components. So I'm going to need a few filters. What you do want to extract, however, are the spent cells. Actually, the spent cells aren't in JEI. I was planning on using the spent cell as a to set the filter. I guess I can't set up the filter yet then until after one cycle has run. So I'm not even going to put these conduits here because I don't want to be able to do something stupid. We have to wait until one of these, one cycle is run and these uranium cells have been depleted, and I'll just set a filter to only extract 100% depleted uranium cells. And then once we have the depleted cells, we can process them somehow, probably through a thermal centrifuge, but I'm not exactly sure. Thermal centrifuge, does it have recipes in here for depleted cells? No. I'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, though, I think this is a good wrapping up point for this episode because I have to wait multiple hours for our reactor to run. So I hope you enjoyed this episode today, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.